This episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany is brought to you with support by New York State United Teachers, which represents more than 600,000 educators and school-related professionals in New York. Dispatches is also supported by the public affairs firm O'Donnell & Associates. For more information, check out o'donnellsolutions.com.
It's not a bunch of Pennsylvanians. They are unionized 32 BJ employees.
All right, again, why do we need?
Let me finish.
Why do we need this? No, you know what? Because you're rambling. Why do we have this? What? Why do we have people that are helping people? We have videos.
It's reduced fair evasion by 36%,
I'm asking
Mr.
Stop
right now.
Who is watching that?
Shut up.
I've also declared war on potholes, so here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out, and he goes, "You have a cigarette?" And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is Dispatches from Planet Albany, a WCNY podcast about power and politics in New York State government. And on today's show, we're unpacking Wednesday's busy day of gubernatorial political developments, which included Governor Kathy Hochul identifying former New York City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams as her running mate, the Brooklyn Democrats subsequently rescinding their endorsement of the incumbent governor, and news coming out that New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani would lend his support to Hochul's re-election campaign. With so much of this news originating from New York City, we're turning to the political reporting guru for the Big Apple, editor-in-chief for City and State New York, Jeff Coltin. Welcome to Dispatches, Jeff.
Thank you for having me. I have put in years of reporting on Adrienne Adams, and I'm glad that I don't have to just throw that out the window now. She's back.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that we get the chance to tap your institutional knowledge. But before we do that, I want to talk about your professional transition, including how you're settling into the editor-in-chief role and what that means for a hybrid digital print outlet in 2026, because I've always been a fan of yours, mostly remotely, and liking your tweets. And so I'm fascinated by what's going on with you now.
Very kind of you. Thank you. Yes, after 3 years at Politico, writing the New York playbook with some of your colleagues in Albany, namely Nick Reisman, I have returned to my journalistic home. I'm back at City and State New York in an editor-in-chief role. It's my first time in management, so hopefully that goes well. But I am so confident in this team and our vision. Yes, having a print magazine in the year 2026, it's just really, really cool to have that. I think that we do a great job of reporting on New York politics and building community in New York politics with our events, with our lists, with winners and losers each week. I'm just really proud of what we do, and we are voraciously going to be covering both the gubernatorial election and everything on the state level going on, congressional races, and of course, the Zohran Mamdani administration. Sure. What a time for New York politics, and what a time to be at City and State.
And it doesn't seem like you're the Perry White editor-in-chief of the Daily Planet, because I'm seeing a lot of bylines and contributing reporting in your first few months in this role already.
That's right. We're a small team at City and
Sure.
State, and also, once a reporter, it's really hard to give it up. So yes, even though I'm also managing, I'm doing reporting too. So send me your tips, give me calls, and talk to my colleagues as well.
Sure. Well, turning to the topic of the week, after a pretty tight-lipped selection and vetting process, Governor Hochul landed on Adrienne Adams as her number 2 for the upcoming primary and likely general election. This was a name that didn't get much attention prior to being announced. I saw a story from last summer that said this was a possibility, and on a previous episode of Dispatches, Chantel Plummer put Adrienne Adams on her short list. But because she hasn't been the subject of speculation, I think a lot of people don't really know her, except maybe for that underwhelming and brief mayoral bid last year. So with all that lead up, what do you see as the case for Adrienne Adams? What is it about her and her bio that makes her a good addition to Hochul's ticket and potentially a good LG?
Well, first and foremost, Adrienne Adams is a safe pick. Obviously, Hochul has had some headaches with her lieutenant governors. Needless to say, Brian Benjamin got indicted, now cleared, but was indicted. And Antonio Delgado turned on Hochul and is now running against her. So she was clearly looking for somebody that she can trust to stay with her for 4 years. And Adrienne Adams is absolutely that person. She is just scandal free, which was basically the core of her campaign for mayor, by the way, is that like I'm boring and I'm scandal free. And she is, and she's she's dignified. I mean, she is just a respected, dignified, in her 60s grandmother, which has been definitely a part of the Hochul campaign and the Adrienne campaign. And again, a pick that just like will not be causing agony for Hochul. Now, that said, this is a 2-female ticket, a 2-woman ticket. I mean, I think a lot of the reason that people did not take the Adams LG candidacy seriously was because there was kind of a wide expectation that Hochul was looking to balance the ticket on gender with a man. And so having an all-female ticket is a first when it comes to major parties in New York. And that is notable. 2026, we'll see if that affects the vote.
Hard to imagine that a lot of people are going to be like, sorry, can't vote for Kathy Hochul because I've been keeping an eye on who her lieutenant governor will be. I just don't imagine that is a meaningful
totally
size
agree.
of the electorate.
And that is the thing. I think sexism always has to be part of the governor conversation, the top of the ticket. But I agree that when it comes to lieutenant governor, it's actually more of a signaling to the insiders and to the people that are really following politics rather than the general voting public. And so, yes, I think Adrienne is somebody who is well known to political insiders, certainly within the boundaries of New York City after 4 years as city council speaker. She also, interestingly, balances progressive politics with moderate politics. She was always kind of playing both sides of this line as speaker. She was really standing up to Eric Adams from a progressive left perspective. She was passing a lot of bills that Eric Adams considered to be, fiscally irresponsible, that she was defending on kind of social justice, compassion lines, like a real progressive, like a real liberal. But then at her core, she is a 65-year-old homeowner from Southeast Queens who used to work in big business. I mean, she is kind of like culturally moderate, and certainly wasn't one that was like going out and supporting socialists. So it's an interesting choice for this election, where Hochul has to both defend her left flank from Antonio Delgado and her right flank for the general election, most likely Bruce Blakeman.
You mentioned a couple times that she is a grandmother in her mid-60s. So do you envision this being, if she wins on this ticket, the last elected office that Adrienne Adams ever holds? Or do you see a future run for the governor and Hochul needing to look over her shoulder the way she might have with Brian Benjamin or clearly with Antonio Delgado?
Sure. I mean, Adrienne has surprised me before. I really expected that she would break the chain. I thought she would be the first city council speaker not to seek higher office. We have a history of New York City Council speakers looking for higher office and failing. Nobody's ever gone on afterwards. And here we and Adrienne was on that path. She was totally just going to retire after being speaker, after she was term limited out. Then, boom, surprise, this time last year, caucus weekend 2025, there was it started bubbling up. Adrienne Adams should run for mayor. It was this idea that she would hurt Andrew Cuomo. She would be able to be a way to block Andrew Cuomo by digging in to his base, by being a Black woman from Southeast Queens with those moderate credentials. And look, in the end, she ended up getting 4% in the primary. She wasn't much of a factor, but you could argue that in a close race, she did help pull support away from Andrew Cuomo. It wasn't a lot, but she had some endorsements that went to her that might have otherwise gone to Cuomo. She cut down on the margins, certainly in Southeast Queens. She kind of ended up playing the role that folks like Letitia James were hoping she would play. And that was to hurt Andrew Cuomo. So long story short, I didn't think she was running. Then she ended up running. And I didn't think she was going to be in the conversation for lieutenant governor. And then now she's going to run for lieutenant governor. So looking ahead 4 years, I don't expect that Adrienne Adams would be looking for higher office. I totally expect that she would, either fully retire or go on to a, nice nonprofit board job or something like that after this. But she surprised me twice before, so I can't rule it out.
What about the downside of an Adrienne Adams pick? Again, that comes with what I said earlier, that unless she publicly torpedoes the campaign, I don't think there's a lot of downside to any lieutenant governor pick. But what about the idea that maybe she doesn't know Albany and Albany lawmakers, so she can't be helpful to the governor when it comes to the actual act of governing, and maybe she's not going to want to travel all around the state and be the ribbon cutter in chief north of New York City? I mean, what do you see as the potential downsides, either politically, and we can clearly get to the downsides when it comes to the Brooklyn Democratic Party with this choice, but are there other downsides politically or from a governing perspective?
Well, yes, there are. I think you're right that she has some relationships in Albany, certainly with the city lawmakers. But she's never worked in state government, never worked in Albany before. So that's a factor. And she was New York City Council Speaker for 4 years. And like any job where you're leading a legislature, you get a lot of criticism. Everything that the legislature does can be put on your shoulders and you can be blamed for. So look, she had a relatively scandal-free, peaceful tenure as speaker, but there were still a lot of bills that people are pissed off about. One of those is what we call the City of Yes. That was a highly controversial bill that upzoned wide swaths of New York City with an idea of housing density. And she got a lot of pushback, especially in the lower density outer borough neighborhoods that Hochul is going to be, battling it out with the Republican in November. So, there is an angle here that choosing Adrienne Adams is actually going to earn Hochul some criticism when it comes to, for lack of a better term, NIMBYs. For those that do not want to build in their backyard, a lot of them have problems with Adrienne Adams.
Some challenges need someone who simply won't quit. Modern advocacy brings tenacity, strategy, and unwavering follow-through to every client it serves. Learn more at modernadvocacyllc.com. So the news of Adrienne Adams was followed very shortly by the announcement from the Brooklyn Dems that they were pulling their endorsement of Hochul, a move that seems to be motivated by a general disdain for Adams from her time as Speaker and concerns about Brooklyn being excluded from the selection process, although what they were envisioning, I don't know. And we can get into why this happened. But first, given your political institutional knowledge, where does this about face rank in terms of Brooklyn Democratic news?
The Brooklyn Democratic Party has been fun to cover for decades. I mean, from long before I started covering it. It's a fascinating institution. And this one is pretty shocking. I mean, there have been some real wild moments. Certainly Frank Sedio, the former boss, getting in some physical fights over judges. Certainly Rodney's Bichat, the current leader, effectively supporting a Republican over Justin Brannon because of personal disdain. So choosing a Republican over a Democrat in a competitive race there because of personal disdain. Just a lot of tension always in the Brooklyn Democratic Party. And I give credit to Rodney's, despite the frequent division in the party, she has maintained influence. Everybody shows up to those Brooklyn Democratic Party events. Everybody from the Democratic Socialists in the borough to the conservative Democrats in the borough. And even some Republicans show up to the Democratic events. It's crazy. I mean, she maintains power and influence. That is what makes this decision so baffling. I mean, what? Why? Like, over the lieutenant governor pick, honestly, I think there's got to be more of a backstory here that I don't fully understand yet. And I don't know if that's just the fact that Rod Neese is trying to assert influence, trying to assert the Brooklyn Democratic Party. Don't ignore us. But I think this move is actually getting a lot of pushback, a lot of criticism, even from Brooklyn Democrats who are not part of the party institution, but are simply Democratic elected officials in Brooklyn, who are saying, no, this is actually bad for the borough. This makes us look weak. This hurts our relationship with Hochul. Why would Kathy want to do anything for Brooklyn now if we're going to pull her endorsement over, again, a relatively safe and anodyne lieutenant governor pick? It was shocking.
Yeah, what is the end game for something like this other than essentially biting your nose to spite your face?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's no way that Hochul's going to change her LG pick now. So I don't think this was a move to influence that.
And this is a governor, though, who does not take kindly to this type of aggression. She has said publicly, I don't like being bullied. It makes me go the opposite way or dig in firmer. And so that's why I just don't understand if there is a long-term plan here from the Brooklyn Dems or whether this was a childlike lashing out.
That's a very good point. No, I again, there are so many Brooklyn Democrats, and I'm hearing so many different theories and stories about this because everybody is theorizing. Like, wait, why? Because there's no clear, obvious answer. So there has to be theories. There's a theory that Rod Neese wanted to be lieutenant governor herself, and that's why she's lashing out. There's a theory that this is just about bad blood from her speakership, that maybe the Brooklyn Dems felt like Brooklyn wasn't taken care enough in the city council. There's also a theory I'm hearing that actually that idea about City of Yes was raised to me. There was this concern that Adrienne Adams would be opening up Hochul to criticism. But honestly, again, there's just no clear answer. And I guess the end game is to kind of assert that the Brooklyn Democratic Party matters. But county parties are not at a time, like, this is not a moment when county parties can be asserting their power. They're everyone's getting weaker. They're falling apart in front of our eyes. And this just doesn't help.
Do you think this ends up undermining Rod Neese's control of the Brooklyn Democratic Party? Is there a short-term future where someone or a coalition that has been opposed to her in the past is able to wrest control away from her?
Rodney's Bishop Hermelin has been the Jay Jacobs of Brooklyn in that there is always talk about a new leader. There's always simmering discussion. At times it's gotten very heated. There's been efforts to find a candidate to take over the party. And then when it comes to the actual vote, she always wins. She manages anyway. And the opposition dies down. And like we've seen with the New York Democratic Party time and time again with Jay Jacobs, Rod Neese has now been reelected to this position, I think 4 times, I want to say. She's been in leadership for a solid number of years. And I'm sure that this will once again start that conversation. There's going to be bubbling up. We need a new leader. But we'll see if it actually maintains momentum or if it's one of those things that just gets heated and then it gets forgotten by the time it's actually time to pick new leadership.
Have you heard anything about the idea that their initial endorsement of the governor was predicated on certain expectations for who the LG was, and that the Adrienne Adams news was not on their radar, it was not part of their expectations, and that's why, one, they were willing to endorse previously and thus were willing to do a 180 when that landscape changed?
Yeah, well, that is a factor. Many of the folks that were in the mix to be lieutenant governor were Brooklynites. We have Brooklyn DA Eric Gonzalez. We have Secretary of State Walter Mosley. We have Assembly Member Brian Cunningham.
No, we can't include Brian Cunningham. We can't.
Well,
I want to stop that right now.
So badly.
We talked to him last week. He said he hadn't even been vetted yet, and that's just no. I would guilty of feeding that as much, but we need to stop that now. That's like if I start circulating that I was in the running for the Boston Celtics, in the 2009 draft. It just was not. Yes, I was eligible, but no. All
right. Well, credit for Cunningham for keeping his name in the conversation. Yes. At the very least, Gonzalez and Mosley were certainly in that upper echelon of potential LG picks, and they didn't get chosen. And instead, Hochul went with a woman from Queens, with Adrienne Adams. Now, I talked to the spokesperson for the Brooklyn Democratic Party. She said, no, there was no official agreement that they would hear about LG first. There was no conversation about LG. So it's not like there was, a contract that was broken with Hochul, but there might have been an expectation. There might have been a hope that, or maybe is simply an assumption on the part of the Brooklyn Dems and Rodney Spichat-Harmelin that Hochul would choose a Brooklynite or talk to Brooklyn about her choice. And when that didn't happen, and when Adrienne Adams got picked, then we saw the reaction, fury.
Well, finally, sticking with that theme of timing of endorsements, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani endorsed Governor Hochul this week, a move that surprised me for a couple of reasons, with the main one being this idea that he has an outstanding wish list for Albany, so I don't understand why he wouldn't wait to see how the budget plays out before making an endorsement. But what do you make of this endorsement, which, according to his piece in The Nation today as we talk on Thursday, is largely based around this idea that Governor Hochul is someone I can work with despite my ideological differences. So what do you make of this, either from a substantive policy issue or a timing issue, like what I just brought up?
I agree with you. The endorsement itself, it's not surprising. It's been clear for months that Mamdani was building a relationship with Hochul and was going to endorse her for re-election over Antonio Delgado. That's been clear. The timing was a surprise. I was not on endorsement watch yet. I totally expected that he would be maintaining this good relationship with her, supporting her publicly, but quiet, but not officially, and then would wait until closer to the June Democratic primary, probably after the budget in April. But no, here we are, early endorsement right before the convention. Definitely surprising. My interpretation of that is that maybe Mamdani is going to play good cop. Maybe the mayor himself is going to be really nice to Hochul, support her, work with her. We've seen that. But he's also has this whole movement behind him that is going to be literally protesting at the Capitol later this month, saying tax the rich. They're doing a whole rally between It's Our Time and DSA, these kind of Mamdani supporting leftist organizations. They are going to be much tougher on the governor. We've also already seen some of his DSA allies, like Jabari Brisport, a close personal friend of the mayor, who endorsed Antonio Delgado. So again, I think maybe this is more of a good cop, bad cop situation. We're going to see Mamdani himself be very publicly supportive early, but a lot of the world around him is going to really keep up that pressure, be really tough on the governor, and push her to the left in the budget and in the primary.
Well, does it also seem like it is a real counter to what the Brooklyn Dems have done, in the sense that this seems like a long-term calculation from the New York City mayor, who was interested in endorsing Delgado, but looks at the field and says, this guy's not going to be the next governor, but Kathy Hochul will, so let's stay on her good terms, and I can deal with my left flank 3+ years from now when I'm running for re-election. So I have plenty of time to either heal those hurt feelings or to expand my base beyond them. I mean, does this seem like it's that calculating? And I mean, is there reason to think of him as that sort of pragmatic politician?
No, totally agree. I think Mamdani has really shown an evolution towards pragmatism. Somebody that used to be known for being, a pure ideologue, as he has gotten closer and closer to the mayoralty, he's really working with politics and pragmatism. And yes, you're totally right here. I mean, like Hochul we just saw it from the Siena poll. It was like her highest poll numbers of all time. she is doing well. She is cruising towards reelection. Delgado is running a fine and healthy campaign, but he's just not seeing the momentum that is necessary to unseat a relatively popular incumbent Democratic governor. So, yeah, I think Mamdani has long seen the writing on the walls and is going along with the winner now. And, yeah, probably has decided in conversations with all of his advisors that it would help him to achieve his goals by playing nice and endorsing early. He maybe is hoping this will lock in this move towards universal childcare, maybe help her come along on pushing the MTA for free buses. Maybe she'll make a deal on corporate taxes or personal income tax. There's a lot that he wants, and this keeps the conversation going.
Well, we've been speaking with Jeff Coltin. He is the editor-in-chief at City and State New York. Jeff, thank you so much for making the time and lending us your expertise. I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Who are you telling shut up?
Be quiet. I said stop.
Excuse me. Apologize for that.
I said I apologize.
You better apologize. He started yelling first. Tell him to.
We will not have this hearing get out of hand.
Well, again, I think you better watch your words. You better watch your words.
The chairman is respectfully answering questions.
I need my time. Thank you.
And you should respectfully ask questions.
I am respectfully. There's somebody that's yelling back.
May I please finish, sir? I'm not limiting what your questions are. I'm just asking you to be respectful when you ask them.
I am being respectful.
And
somebody's not answering the question properly.
Raising voices shall not be tolerated.
Okay.
Let me apologize also. I shouldn't have raised my voice.
All right. Guess what? Then we'll move on.
Good.